What if I told you the man who became the most famous voice in movie history, the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa, once lived in total silence for 8 years because he was too embarrassed to speak? This is not a motivational fairy tale. This is the story of how silence created a giant. Today, you know James Earl Jones as a legend. You know the deep, rumbling baritone that commands respect the moment it vibrates through a speaker. But before the fame, before the awards, before the red carpets, there was a boy who was terrified of his own voice, a boy who believed that he was broken, a boy who chose to lock his words inside his chest rather than let the world hear his pain. Why are we telling this story today? Because we live in a world that never shuts up. We live in a world of constant notifications, endless scrolling and noise that follows us into our beds. We have forgotten the power of being quiet. And because we have forgotten silence, we have forgotten who we are. This story is going to teach you something uncomfortable. It will show you that your weakness might actually be your greatest strength waiting to be discovered. It will show you that while everyone is fighting to be heard, the real power belongs to the one who listens. And yes, this story will improve your English. You will hear the rhythm of storytelling. You will feel the weight of words. You will learn not just with your brain, but with your heart. So turn off your notifications. Close the other tabs. Give yourself this time, because the silence we are about to explore might just save your life. Part 1. The Boy Who Swallowed His Voice. Let's go back to the beginning. The year is 1931. A child is born in Mississippi. His father leaves before he is born. His mother leaves soon after. Little James is sent to live with his grandparents on a farm. The trauma of abandonment is deep, but he is too young to understand it. He is just a child looking for safety. From age 6, little James Earl Jones carries a heavy secret. Every time he opens his mouth, the words get stuck. His tongue feels like a lead weight. The other children laugh. His teachers look away. He decides then, if the world won't listen to his struggle, he will give the world nothing but silence. It wasn't a tantrum. It was a survival strategy. He realized that speaking brought pain. It brought shame. It brought the hot, stinging feeling of humiliation to his cheeks. So he made a choice that seems impossible to us today. He stopped talking. He didn't T-stop for a week. He didn't T-stop for a month. He stopped for 8 years. From the age of 6 until he was 14, James Earl Jones became a ghost in his own life. He went to school. He did his chores. He walked through the town, but he did not speak. He communicated with handwritten notes. He pointed. He nodded. But he refused to let a sound escape his lips. Most people think silence is empty. They think it is a sign of weakness or fear. But let me tell you the truth. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. While the world is shouting, the silent man is learning. While the other boys were shouting over each other to be the loudest, James was watching. He was listening. He was observing how the wind moved through the cornfields. He was listening to the way adults changed their tone when they were angry versus when they were sad. He was studying the musicality of the world. He didn't know it yet, but he was in training. My friend, as someone who has felt the pressure to always have something smart to say, I want you to know it's okay to be quiet. I'm not saying this to make you shy. I'm saying this because your power is growing in those quiet moments. We live in a culture that tells us speak up, be loud, sell yourself. But look at James. In his silence, he was building a reservoir of depth that the noisy kids could never understand. He was learning the value of a word before he even spoke one. But do not think this was easy. It was a lonely, painful existence. In a small classroom in Michigan, James is made to stand. The teacher asks a simple question. He knows the answer, but his throat locks. He stands there, face turning red, while the silence in the room becomes a weapon. He sits down, defeated, and makes a vow. He will not speak again until he can command the air itself. Can you feel that room? Can you feel the eyes of 30 other children burning into your back? But they were wrong. You are not your broken speech. You are not your past failures. Can you feel the teacher's pity, which is worse than their anger? That was his reality every single day. You are a masterpiece in progress. And right now, the silence is just the canvas being prepared for a beautiful painting. The world saw a dumb boy, a slow boy, a boy with nothing to say. James began to read. Since he couldn't speak, he devoured books. He read poetry. He read history. He read stories of great kings and warriors. And in his head, in the safety of his own mind, he didn't stutter. In his mind, his voice was clear. It was strong. It was booming. He built a sanctuary inside his head where he was not a victim, but a king. James is now a teenager. Most boys want to be heard, to be popular, to shout. And yet, he makes a strange decision. For nearly 3,000 days, he communicates only through handwritten notes. He chooses to be a ghost in a world of noise. Think about the discipline that requires to stub your toe and not scream, to know the answer in class and not raise your hand, to see a beautiful girl and not say hello. He was practicing a level of self-control that most adults never achieve. He was holding back the river. Imagine trying to walk through a crowded market while holding your breath. Every nerve in your body wants to scream, but you keep it locked inside. That was James's life, a pressure cooker of words waiting for the right moment to explode. But why does this matter to you? You don't have a stutter. You can speak fine. But are you really speaking, or are you just making noise? We use noise to hide. We turn on the TV so we don't have to think about our problems. We talk endlessly about the weather or sports so we don't have to talk about our feelings. We scroll through social media so we don't have to sit alone with our thoughts. We are terrified of silence because silence forces us to look in the mirror. Ask yourself this. If you stopped talking for just one day, what would you finally hear? Would you hear the truth about your life, or would you just hear the fear you've been trying to drown out with noise? James had no choice but to hear the truth. And the truth was, he had a fire inside him, a fire that was getting hotter and brighter with every year of silence. He wasn't empty. He was charging up. Maybe you are listening to this and you feel like you have no voice. Maybe you feel ignored at work or at home. I know that weight. I know how it feels to have a heart full of words in a world that won't listen. I want you to know that you are not alone in that feeling. And I want you to know that this season of being ignored, of being quiet, is not wasted time. It is preparation. James Earl Jones didn't know it then, but his silence was the best acting school he could have ever attended. He was learning to feel before he spoke. Part 2, The Science of Silence. Now, I want to pause the story of James for a moment. I want to take you out of the dusty classroom in Michigan and bring you into a modern laboratory. Because what happened to James ISNT? Just a touching story. It is biological fact. James discovered something by accident that scientists are only now beginning to understand. You are actually changing your physical brain every time you choose quiet over noise. Science has revealed a secret that most people will never know. Silence, ISNT, just nice, is biological medicine for your memory. Let's look at the research. In 2013, a team of biologists at Duke University conducted a study that changed everything we thought we knew about the brain. They were studying mice. They wanted to see how different sounds affected the brain. They exposed the mice to different things: white noise, pup calls, music by Mozart, and finally, silence. They expected the music to be the best, or maybe the social sounds. But they were wrong. When the mice were exposed to 2 hours of silence per day, something incredible happened. The researchers looked at their brains and saw new cells growing, specifically in the hippocampus. That is the part of the brain responsible for memory, emotion, and learning. Silence was literally growing their brains. Now, compare that to noise. Think of the mice in the Duke University lab, surrounded by noise. Their little hearts race. Their stress hormones skyrocket. They are trapped in a world of sound they didn't ask for. Is that how your brain feels every time you check your phone? We live in a world that is louder than ever before in human history. Traffic, sirens, notifications, music in the store, music in the elevator, podcasts in the car, TV at dinner. Our brains are constantly processing data. They never get a break. When your brain is processing sound, it is working. It is using energy. It is releasing stress hormones like cortisol. Even when you are sleeping, if there is noise, your brain is reacting. You are in a constant state of low-level fight or flight. What feels like isolation is often your brain's way of protecting itself. That 2-hour rule of silence, ISNTA punishment, is a gift of growth for your hippocampus. James Earl Jones gave his brain 8 years of this gift. 8 years of low stress. 8 years of deep processing. 8 years of growing the capacity to feel and remember. Every time you turn on the TV just to have background noise, it's like pouring salt into a fresh wound. Your brain is screaming for a break, but you keep feeding it static. You are starving your memory while overfeeding your ears. We think we are multitasking. We think we are being productive. ILL, listen to the news while I work. ILL, watch a video while I eat. But we are not being productive. We are being destructive. We are destroying our ability to focus. We are destroying our ability to think deeply. Most people focus on the words they speak. But the secret of the world's greatest communicators is the pause. It's not the sound that moves people, it's the silence that gives the sound its power. Think about the most powerful speeches in history. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. Think about Winston Churchill. Or think about James Earl Jones as Mufasa telling Simba, "Remember who you are." It ISNT, the speed of the words. It is the space around them. The silence allows the words to land. It allows the listener to feel them. Without silence, words are just noise. Let me tell you the truth. You aren't avoiding silence because it's boring. You are avoiding it because you are afraid of what you will hear when the music stops. You are afraid that if you turn off the noise, you will remember that you are lonely. You will remember that you hate your job. You will remember that you are not where you want to be in life. The noise is a drug. It numbs the pain of reality, but you cannot heal what you do not feel. And you cannot feel if you are constantly distracted. Imagine the hippocampus in your brain like a small garden. In the noise, the wind blows the soil away. But in 2 hours of silence, the rain falls and new cells begin to sprout. You are literally growing a better version of yourself in the dark. This is why James Earl Jones became a genius of the voice. His garden was lush. His garden was deep. He had grown a mind that was capable of holding immense emotion because he hadn't spent his energy on useless chatter. So today, I want you to put down the headphones. Turn off the podcast after this. Give your brain the 120 minutes of peace it is begging for. Fight for your focus. You don't have to do 8 years like James. Start with 20 minutes. Start with an hour. Go for a walk without your phone. Sit in your car for 10 minutes before you go into the house. Reclaim your brain. Part 3. The Awakening. We left James as a teenager, silent, watchful, a ghost. But he wasn't staying the same. He was evolving. James Earl Jones wasn't fighting a stutter. He was mastering the art of listening. While other kids were talking about nothing, he was dissecting the rhythm of every bird, every wind, and every human breath. He began to understand that speech is music. It has a tempo. It has a melody. He realized that the reason he stuttered was that he was trying to speak at the same rhythm as everyone else. But he had his own rhythm. He just needed to find it. He entered high school. He was big for his age, strong, but still silent. He met a teacher named Donald Crouch. Donald Crouch was not like the other teachers. He didn't look away. He didn't pity James. He saw something in the boy's eyes. He saw an intelligence that was trapped behind a wall of fear. Donald Crouch was a former poet. He loved words, and he knew that James loved words too, because he saw James writing poetry. One day, James showed Mr. Crouch a poem he had written. It was beautiful, deep, profound. Mr. Crouch read it. He looked at James, and he said something that felt like a betrayal. "This is too good. I don't believe you wrote this. You must have copied it from a book." Imagine the moment he finally tries to speak to a girl he likes. He has practiced the words in his head for 1,000 hours. But when he opens his mouth, the silence betrays him. The words die in his throat. He walks away, the laughter of the world ringing in his ears. James felt that same sting now. He had poured his soul into that poem. It was his voice on paper. And now, this teacher was calling him a liar? James was furious. He shook his head. He wanted to scream, "I wrote it!" But he couldn't. He just stared at the teacher, trembling. Mr. Crouch leaned in. He set a trap made of love and challenge. He said, "If you want to prove you wrote this, you must stand up in front of the class and read it to me, out loud. Little brother, I know that feeling of being trapped inside your own skin, but trust the process. The longer the silence, the more powerful the eventual shout. Your time is coming." James was terrified. This was his nightmare. To stand up, to speak, to fail, to hear the laughter again. But his pride was stronger than his fear. He wanted to prove he was a writer. He wanted to claim his words. He took the paper. His hands were shaking. He walked to the front of the room. The other students looked up. The mute boy is going to speak, they thought. This will be a disaster. James looked at the paper. He took a breath, a deep breath, the kind of breath he had been holding for 8 years. Weak people use noise to hide their insecurity, but powerful leaders use silence to show their confidence. A king doesn't need to shout to be heard. He waits for the room to become quiet before he speaks a single word. James waited. He didn't rush. He let the silence fill the room first. He took control of the moment, and then he began to read. The grapefruit, The words didn't get stuck. The grapefruit is a fruit. They flowed. They didn't stumble. They didn't trip. They came out deep, resonant, and clear. Imagine watching 1,000 videos about how to be confident, but you never actually sat alone in a room with your own thoughts. You are building a library of information, but a desert of actual strength. James had built a library of strength. He had practiced this in his mind 1,000,000 times. He knew exactly how the words should sound. He finished the poem. The room was dead silent. Not the silence of awkwardness, the silence of awe. The students were shocked. The teacher was smiling. James was stunned. He had spoken, and he hadn't stuttered. Why? Because he wasn't trying to talk. He was performing. He was reciting. He had detached himself from the anxiety of conversation and connected himself to the art of the words. Mozart once said the music isn't in the notes. It s in the silence between them. You are about to discover that your life's greatest melody, isnt, what you do, but what you stop doing. James realized that when he focused on the rhythm, on the flow, on the spaces between the words, the stutter disappeared. The silence he had lived in had taught him the structure of sound. He didn't just read the poem, he felt it. Mr. Crouch looked at him and said, "You have a voice, and it is a powerful one. We are going to use it. You are not a quiet person because you are shy. You are a quiet person because you are a deep well, and deep wells take time to fill before they can overflow." James had been filling his well for 8 years, and now it was overflowing. Part 4. The Voice of the Century. That day in the classroom was the turning point. But it wasn't the end of the struggle. James still stuttered in normal conversation. But he knew the secret now. If he followed a script, if he focused on the art, he was free. He began to act. He joined the debate team. He entered oratorical contests. The boy who couldn't say hello was now winning awards for public speaking. He went to college. He joined the military. And eventually he went to New York to become an actor. It wasn't easy. A black actor with a stutter in the 1950s and 60s? The odds were against him. He worked as a janitor to pay the bills. He polished floors while reciting Shakespeare to himself in the empty hallways. But his voice, that voice was undeniable. It was a voice that carried the weight of the earth. It was a voice that sounded like it had been carved out of a mountain. Directors began to notice. He got roles in plays, then movies, and then, in 1977, a director named George Lucas was making a space movie. He had a villain, a tall figure in a black mask. But the actor inside the suit didn't have the right voice. He sounded weak. Lucas needed a voice that sounded like pure power. A voice that sounded like the darkest parts of the universe. He called James Earl Jones. James went into a recording booth. He looked at the script. He took a breath. He remembered the silence. He remembered the rhythm. The high school teacher, Donald Crouch, hands James a poem. "Read it," he commands. James shakes. 8 years of silence are about to end or break him forever. He opens his mouth, and for the first time, the world doesn't hear a stutter. They hear a thunderclap. When James spoke into that microphone, he didn't just read lines. He channeled the authority he had built in the dark. I find your lack of faith disturbing. The technicians in the studio got chills. No, I am your father. That voice became the most iconic sound in cinema history. What James thought was a curse, his stutter, was actually the divine protection that forced him to listen. Without those 8 years of quiet, he would have just been another voice. Because of them, he became the voice. Think about it. If James had never stuttered, he would have been a normal chatterbox kid. He would have never learned to listen so deeply. He would have never developed that rich, resonant tone. He would have never become Darth Vader. He would have never become Mufasa. His greatest pain became his greatest paycheck. His greatest shame became his greatest fame. The boy who wouldn't say hello in 1940 became the man who told the world, "I am your father," in 1977. One man, two extremes, and the only bridge between them was the power of silence. This is the lesson of James Earl Jones. He didn't succeed despite his silence. He succeeded because of it. Part 5. Your turn to listen. So here we are. You and me, we have walked through the rice fields of Korea with the founder of Hyundai. We have looked at the stars with Galileo. And now we have stood in the recording booth with James Earl Jones. What is the common thread? What is the secret that connects these stories? It is the refusal to accept the world's definition of you. The world told Chung Ju-young he was a peasant. He became a tycoon. The world told Galileo he was a heretic. He became the father of science. The world told James Earl Jones he was mute. He became the voice. And now, the world is telling you something. Maybe it's telling you that you are too old to learn English. Maybe it's telling you that you are too poor to start a business. Maybe it's telling you that you are too broken to be happy. Are you going to listen to the noise? Or are you going to listen to the silence? Work hard in silence and let your success be your noise. You don't need to tell everyone your plans. You just need to show them your results. You don't need to post about your goals on Instagram. You don't need to tell your friends you're going to change. Just do it. Go into the dark. Go into the quiet. Do the work when no one is watching. Read the books. Practice the skills. Build the business. Learn the language. Let them think you are inactive. Let them think you have disappeared. Like James Earl Jones for those 8 years, let them think you have nothing to say. And then, when you are ready, speak. And when you speak, the world will listen. Not because you are loud, but because you are heavy with purpose. Imagine the death of your old, noisy, anxious self. No more scrolling, no more shouting, no more constant distraction. Just you, your breath, and the incredible strength of a quiet mind. This is not about becoming a monk. This is about becoming a master of your own mind, a master of your own attention. If you can sit in silence for 1 hour and not panic, you are more powerful than 99 of the people on this planet, because in that silence, you will find yourself. You will find your ideas. You will find your God. You will find your path. The noise is a cage. Silence is the key. So now turn off the screen. Sit in the quiet for just 10 minutes. Listen to the answers that only come when the world is shut out. Your future is waiting in the silence. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for giving your brain this time to grow. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. But more importantly, live it. Don T just consumed this video like another piece of noise. Let it settle. Let it change you. I believe in you. I believe in your voice. Now, go find it. This is the power of silence, and this is your beginning.